Welcome to Convo Stories. The highway stretched endlessly before me, dark and empty, the only sound the steady hum of my engine. It was late, too late for anyone to be out here alone, but then I saw him. A man stood on the side of the road, frantically waving one arm while clutching a small, limp figure in the other. As my headlights washed over him, I could see his face twisted in desperation, his eyes red and wild. He was crying. I pulled over without thinking. The man ran to my window, his breath ragged. "Please help me," he gasped. "My daughter, I need to get her to a hospital. Now." The little girl in his arms looked barely conscious, her face pale, her breathing shallow. I didn't hesitate. I unlocked the doors, and he scrambled into the passenger seat, cradling her protectively. I sped toward the nearest hospital, my hands gripping the wheel tighter than ever before. The man rocked his daughter gently, whispering words of comfort between his sobs. "Stay with me, baby. Just hold on." His voice was raw, filled with the kind of terror only a father could feel when faced with losing his child. When we reached the hospital, I helped him carry her inside. Doctors and nurses rushed to take the girl, wheeling her away as I caught my breath. The father, without a word, turned and ran down the hallway, disappearing into another room. No thank you, no hesitation, just an urgency I couldn't understand. Something about it unsettled me, but I told myself he must have needed to handle paperwork or find family. Still, I stayed, waiting for news. A while later, a nurse approached me. "Are you a relative of the girl?" she asked. "No," I replied. "I just gave them a ride. Her father ran into that room." I pointed to the door he had vanished through. The nurse's expression changed, confusion flashing across her face. That's just a small kitchen," she said slowly. A cold unease crept up my spine as she walked over to check. The door swung open, revealing two nurses on break, chatting over their meals. No man, no sign of anyone having been there. I felt my stomach drop. He was just here," I stammered. "You must have seen him. White hair, a mole under his left eye. He was carrying his daughter." The nurses exchanged uneasy glances. One of them shook her head. "No one came in here." I had no words. My mind raced, searching for some logical explanation. Maybe he had slipped away unnoticed. Maybe I was just exhausted. But something inside me whispered that this was no mistake. I stayed for hours. When the doctors finally stabilized the girl, I couldn't help myself. I asked her about the man who had brought her here. She looked at me, eyes widening. "You saw my dad?" she whispered. "Yeah," I said cautiously. White hair, a mole under his left eye. Tears welled up in her eyes. "That's my father, but he passed away 8 years ago." The room felt suddenly smaller, the air thick and heavy. My skin prickled. She told me she had been at a party with friends when things got out of hand. They had been running, laughing, scared, reckless, when she tripped and fell into a ditch. Everything had gone black. The next thing she knew, she was being carried through the darkness, held tightly in strong, familiar arms, a voice whispering reassurances. Months later, I saw her again. She smiled at me, grateful, and handed me an old photograph. Her father, standing beside her as a child, his arm around her shoulder, white hair, a mole under his left eye. I had never seen him before that night. A chill ran down my spine. Even in death, a father's job is never done. Follow Convo Stories for more, and be sure to like and subscribe. It'll help me bring more of these stories to you. Bye-bye.